Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NFL DFS player pool video for week number 7. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how this week's video will be structured. We'll be going over both my player pools for both DraftKings and FanDuel. We'll start over on the DraftKings side. We'll get moved over to FanDuel. If you play on just one specific site, just feel free to click over onto the chapter section of this video for that. I'll try to go over both in depth as much as possible. But basically what I do with these player pool videos, I'll break down all the players that are in my player pool. If you like somebody that's not in my player pool, feel free to use them if you're building out some stacks, whether it's quarterback, wide receiver, quarterback, tight end, anything else like that, and they're not in the pool, feel free to play them at the same time as well. But without further ado, we'll get started on the DraftKings side. We'll start off at the quarterback position. We got Jaden Daniels, $7,600 going against the Carolina Panthers. Should be a really good matchup for him. Obviously, he's played really well so far to start off this season. Jalen Hurts behind him, $7,300. Similar type of upside. Both have some rushing threat to be had there. Giants defense has not been that great so far. And then Jordan Love was actually a late addition to the player pool for me, and it's mainly because this Texans defense is going to be missing 4 starters, including both starting linebackers, a corner, and a safety. So could be some significant upside for the Packers and Jordan Love this week overall. Moving down to Jared Goff going against Minnesota Vikings. They have kind of struggled against quarterbacks in terms of fantasy points so far this year, so should be a pretty attractive matchup. Should be a pretty back and forth game there, I would expect as well. Another late addition this week was Kirk Cousins, $6,300 going against Seattle Seahawks. I do like their defense normally, but Tariq Woolen and Trey Brown both out at corner this week. A little banged up in that safety department. Should be some upside for Kirk Cousins and this Atlanta Falcons team overall. Then we move down to Sam Darnold, $6,200. So his price tag's finally come up. Played really well so far this season going against the Detroit Lions, who have not quite figured it out on defense. Loss of Aiden Hutchinson could be a very big one for them as well. And then in terms of the 2 cheap quarterbacks we got this week, we got Matthew Stafford, $5,600 going against Las Vegas Raiders. Cooper Kupp might be back this week. He's listed as questionable. We'll see whether or not he plays or not. But I like Stafford's upside in this matchup just in general. And then last but not least, we have Andy Dalton, $5,200 going against the Washington Commanders, who has a very, very attractive matchup there. And I would not be surprised if that is a very back and forth game just in general. Then we move over to the running back position. We got Saquon Barkley, $8,200 going against his former team in the New York Giants. Not too much to be said here. We know the type of upside that Saquon can have on any given slate, and definitely do like the matchup as well. Kyron Williams, $8,100 going against that Raiders team as well. It should be a game that the Rams are leading, and I would expect. Kyron Williams played really well so far this year, so definitely do like his upside once again. Joe Mixon I like on DraftKings, not so much on FanDuel. FanDuel is a little bit more expensive. $7,200 going against the Green Bay Packers. Definitely some significant upside to be had there versus that Packers team in general. If you really want to play Dameon Pierce, you could probably do it as well as kind of a punt play. He had a pretty decent week last week, so wouldn't be surprised if they're still splitting that workload just a little bit with both them coming off injury. Then we move down to Bijan Robinson, $7,100 going against that Seattle Seahawks defense. A little bit banged up at this point in time. Hit or miss versus the runs, so there is some decent upside to be had there with him. If you want to go down, Tyler Algier as a punt play, $5,100. He's had some strong performances this season as well. And then we move down to Chuba Hubbard, $6,500. Jonathan Brooks still remains on the PUP list or non-football injury list. I can't remember which one he's actually on, but Chuba Hubbard's played really well. Washington defense, not the greatest in the world, and they did lose Jonathan Allen, one of their main defensive tackles, to IR as well, so that should help out this Panthers team and Chuba Hubbard just in general. Brian Robinson Jr., as long as he plays this week, $6,400 going against that Panthers defense. A very attractive matchup there. He is technically listed as questionable. If he's unable to go, then obviously you can look at Austin Eckler, and he'll have a pretty good matchup in his own right. Tony Pollard versus Buffalo Bills, $6,300. No Tajay Spears this week. The Bills actually have struggled against the run so far this season, so if that trend continues, Tony Pollard could have some value there just in general. And then Nick Chubb making his return, $6,000, going against the Cincinnati Bengals. Defensive line has been pretty banged up for them most of the season. Been a little bit rougher against the run, so if he gets significant carries in this game, or a good handful of carries, or breaks one off even, which who knows if that's possible coming off his knee injury. There's a lot of question marks there, but I do like that upside at $6,000 just in general. Then we got Kareem Hunt, $6,000. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back this week, so we'll see if he factors into the offense at all, but Kareem Hunt has looked like the main guy since getting the call up for the Chiefs team overall, $6,000. Not the greatest matchup in the world versus the 49ers, but some upside to be had there at the same time as well. Then we got Ty Chandler, $5,600 going against the Detroit Lions. Decent matchup here. Detroit's been all right against the runs. Obviously, losing Aiden Hutchinson probably going to hurt that. And Aaron Jones listed as questionable. We'll see whether or not he plays this week. I kind of think that he does miss, so Ty Chandler, $5,600 looks like a decent value. And then we already did talk about Tyler Algier as a potential punt play versus the Seattle Seahawks. Moving over to the wide receiver position, we're start off with Justin Jefferson at the top, $8,500. We got 4 really good wide receivers at the top here, 5 if you count Stephon Diggs as well. But Justin Jefferson versus Detroit Lions, their cornerback room has struggled to start off the season for the most part. Obviously, a little bit better last week versus the Cowboys, but do expect a pretty good week for Justin Jefferson just in general. Jamar Chase, probably the toughest matchup of the kind of top wide receivers going against the Cleveland Browns. Probably Denzel Ward most of the time. You might get some Martin Emerson, kind of depending on what side of the field Jamar Chase ultimately ends up on, more times than not. But definitely do like his upside. He has that high-end upside on any given slate. And then we have Amon-Ra St. Brown going against the Minnesota Vikings, primarily operating out of the slot, going against Byron Murphy Jr., who has struggled for the better part of this season, so should be a really good matchup there. A.J. Brown versus the New York Giants. Giants have really struggled against wide receivers so far this season. Pretty easy play here in A.J. Brown. Stephon Diggs, $7,700, going against the Green Bay Packers. Jair Alexander, limited practice once again all week, so he's still not 100% healthy. Do like Diggs in this matchup quite a bit. And then we have Jaden Reed on the opposite side of that game versus the Houston Texans. Texans have kind of struggled versus slot wide receivers so far this season. Jaden Reed does have some pretty significant upside at the end of the day as well. Next up is Devonta Smith, $6,900, going against the Giants. Pretty much everything I said with A.J. Brown still applies here. Giants have struggled against wide receivers. Decent upside with Devonta Smith just in general. Drake London, $6,900, going against the Seattle Seahawks defense. Tariq Woolen's out this week, which was probably the guy that could cover him the best. And then Trey Brown is also out, so they're missing 2 of their top 3 corners, so it should be a really attractive matchup just in general. We'll see whether or not they throw Devon Witherspoon on him, but either then, it's a pretty big size mismatch just at the end of the day. Terry McLaurin going against the Carolina Panthers. Pretty attractive matchup, still the number 1 option in his offense at $6,800. Opposite side of that game, we got Deontay Johnson, $6,600 versus Washington Commanders that have really struggled against the wide receiver position so far this season. Tank Dell is next up, $6,500. Going against the Green Bay Packers, probably not going to get Jair Alexander in coverage, so should be a really good matchup for him as well. T. Higgins is only $6,400, so I consider that a really good price tag for him. Tougher matchup against the Browns this week, though. And then we have Jameson Williams, $6,000, going against the Vikings. Played really well so far to start off the season, so I do kind of consider him a decent play just in general. Opposite end of that game, Jordan Addison, $5,600 versus the Detroit Lions. And if I'm being honest, I do want a little bit of Jordan Addison this week. Looks like TJ Hawkinson's still not going to be back. So Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, you can play both of them pretty easily. You can play them with Sam Darnold if you want to as well. Then we got Tyler Lockett, $5,300, going against the Atlanta Falcons. Probably not getting A.J. Terrell in coverage, so it is going to look like a decent matchup for him versus Mike Hughes, most likely. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tyler Lockett has a decent week, coming off a pretty good week in his own right. DeAndre Hopkins, $5,000, just kind of a cheap price tag for him at this point in time. He played about 70% of the snaps last week. Tougher matchup against Buffalo, but do like the upside that could potentially be there. Christian Watson, $4,900, going against the Texans. A little bit banged up in terms of that secondary this week. If he gets a deep shot, could ultimately end up paying off at $4,900. Jerry Jeudy, there is no Amari Cooper now, so $4,800 should be one of the primary targets for Deshaun Watson for however much that's really worth at this point in time, but it is a really good matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals, really banged up cornerback unit just in general. Juju Smith-Schuster, technically listed as questionable with a hamstring injury, but they said he should be good to go unless he has a major setback in one way or another. $4,000 going against the 49ers. He has quietly become one of the primary options for Patrick Mahomes since the departure of Rashee Rice. And then there's Noah Brown going against the Panthers, $4,000. Kind of a punt play here, just kind of hoping that he does have a little bit of upside in this game. And then last but not least, we have Elijah Moore. $3,200 really has done nothing this season, but there is no Amari Cooper. And Deshaun Watson was targeting the heck out of Amari Cooper. So there is potential targets to go around. You can take a chance there. I don't know if I'm personally going to do it, but he is a name worth mentioning at the very least. And then we move over to the tight end position. Got George Kittle at the top, $6,000, going against the Chiefs, who actually have struggled against the tight end position so far this season. Brock Bowers, $5,800, going against the Rams. Really good matchup. Clear number 1 target for this Raiders team just in general. There is no Devontae Adams as he got traded away now. And Jacoby Myers listed as doubtful, so I do not expect him to play this week. And then we got Tucker Kraft going against Houston Texans, 2 backup linebackers this week, a backup safety. So there is opportunities to be had for him, $4,600. Okay price tag. I think he might be a little bit more popular than I would like this week, but there's some decent upside to be had there at the end of the day as well. Kyle Pitts going against Seattle Seahawks. Pretty attractive matchup just in general, $4,500. Don't mind that price tag. Zach Ertz, $3,900, going against that Carolina Panthers team, still rolling out those backup linebackers. So do like his upside. He is the clear number 2 target in his offense. So a lot of upside there at $3,900. Grant Calcaterra, played a good amount last week in place of Dallas Goedert, $3,200 going against the Giants. It's a decent matchup to be had there. Do expect that he is the tight end one playing the most snaps for them once again this week. And then we have Jatavian Sanders going against the Washington Commanders. If he's the tight end one again this week for the Panthers, which he did do last week, although Tommy Tremble coming off that concussion was looking like he was going to play, then I believe didn't practice on Friday, so that was kind of weird. We'll monitor that situation. Leave some down in the comments if we get a notable update in terms of that. And then last but not least, we have the defenses. Only 4 on the DraftKings side this week. We got the Eagles going against the Giants, $3,600. Decent matchup for the Eagles. Giants played a little bit better as of late than we expected. Malik Neighbors will be back this week, though. And then we do have the Bills going against the Titans. If they can get pressure on Will Levis, should be a pretty attractive matchup for them. $3,500, not a bad price tag as well. And then the 2 that I have left are probably my 2 favorite ones this week. We got the Rams at $3,000 going against Las Vegas Raiders. Not much to be left on this Raiders team. Shut down Brock Bowers, you probably win the game pretty easily. And I think there is some upside to be had there just in general. And then last but not least, we have the Miami Dolphins going against the Colts, $2,800. I do like their upside in this game. If they can pressure Anthony Richardson, get him into opportunities to make mistakes, who knows how healthy he's at this point in time with that hip pointer. Should be close to 100%. But is there any limitations in terms of his rushing upside, in terms of his mobility? That kind of remains to be seen. Do like that Dolphins defense once again. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown on the DraftKings side. We'll move over to FanDuel and talk about my player pool over there as well. So once again, on the FanDuel side, a lot of the names are going to be pretty similar to DraftKings, but if you only watch for the FanDuel side, we'll try to go over it as best as possible. So we're going to start off at the quarterback position with Jaden Daniels, $9,100. Going against the Carolina Panthers, a very attractive matchup. Jaden Daniels has played really well to start off the season. Jalen Hurts, kind of your discount Jaden Daniels this week at $8,500. Going against the Giants, really attractive matchup there as well. Definitely do like his upside. Jared Goff and Sam Darnold, I'm going to pair these two together because I do like this game environment. I think it's going to be a pretty back and forth game. Both of them do have significant upside. Goff's at $7,800 and Sam Darnold's at $7,500. And then we move down to Andy Dalton going against the Washington Commanders. Really attractive matchup in terms of what their defense throws out there on a weekly basis. Andy Dalton showed decent upside at times this season, so definitely do like him at $7,300. And then last but not least, we have Matthew Stafford, $7,100. Going against Las Vegas Raiders, really hit or miss on that defensive end, and he might potentially have Cooper Kupp back this week. You can also throw Kirk Cousins in here. As I was kind of doing my updates, I missed that on the FanDuel side, but we'll probably add that as this sheet goes up on my Patreon page. Then we move over to the running back position. It's pretty thin this week, if I'm being honest. So we got Saquon Barkley, $9,000 going against his former team, the New York Giants. Should be a pretty attractive matchup there. Obviously, we know the type of upside that Saquon Barkley can have on any given week. And then we have Kyron Williams, $8,600 going against the Raiders. I do expect the Rams to be leading this game for the better part. So Kyron Williams, with his volume, could definitely pay off at this price tag. Bijan Robinson, I don't love the price tag at $8,200. I like the matchup versus the Seattle Seahawks. I do expect the Falcons to be leading most of the time in this game. But if you want to go down to a punt playing Tyler Algier at $5,800 in the same matchup, he's had some significant upside at times this season as well. Then we move over to Chuba Hubbard, $7,400. Going against the Washington Commanders this week, there is no Jonathan Brooks once again. Chuba Hubbard's kind of the main back for this Panthers team. He's played really well with Andy Dalton at quarterback, and the Commanders are going to be without Jonathan Allen at defensive tackle as he was placed on IR. Tony Pollard, $7,100, going against the Bills. The Bills have struggled against running backs so far this season. I'm not sure that's going to be the case in this matchup. Tony Pollard's out there with no Tajay Spears this week, $7,100. Definitely worth taking a chance on, though. Then we move down to Austin Eckler. He's $6,600. Going against the Carolina Panthers is a very attractive matchup. I think he looks a lot better if Brian Robinson is out this week. And Brian Robinson's listed as questionable. He's been limited in practice all week, so we'll see whether or not he plays or not. That is probably an announcement that we're going to get when the inactives do come out. And then last but not least, we have Ty Chandler, $6,400. Aaron Jones may or may not play this week, so Ty Chandler does have decent upside. Going against the Detroit Lions, who have been pretty good against running backs so far this season, but they did lose Aiden Hutchinson, so that could make an impact on their defense as a pretty big hole as well. Then we move over to the wide receiver position. We got Justin Jefferson at the top, $9,400. Going against the Detroit Lions, it's a really good matchup. It's a really good game environment. Not too much to be said here. I do definitely like Justin Jefferson quite a bit. Probably getting a good amount of him this week just in general. Jamar Chase, $9,300. Tougher matchup against the Browns, but it is Jamar Chase, so we know the type of upside that he could have on any given slate. Corners are healthy at this point in time for the Browns. Safeties, kind of questionable whether or not they'll play or not. So it could be a decent matchup if they can get a deep shot to him. A.J. Brown, $8,900. Going against the Giants. Giants have really struggled against the wide receiver position so far this season. Do not be surprised if A.J. Brown has a pretty big week. Probably going to get to a good amount of him. Then we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, $8,800. I'm going against the Minnesota Vikings. Probably Byron Murphy Jr. in the slot more times than not. Should be a really good matchup for him. Probably a little bit underweight to the field on him this week, but still think there is good upside to be had just in general. And then we have Stephon Diggs, $8,600. Decent matchup versus the Packers. Probably going to get a lot of Jair Alexander, but Alexander's banged up at this point in time. There's still no Nico Collins, so definitely do like the upside and potential target volume for Stephon Diggs this week. T. Higgins, $7,800. Tougher Browns matchup, but he still does have decent upside at the end of the day. Devonta Smith, $7,700. Going against that same Giants matchup as A.J. Brown, so decent upside to be had there. Obviously, both of them are healthy at this point in time. Would not be surprised if either one has a big week versus Giants team just in general. Jayden Reed in the slot going against Houston Texans should be a pretty advantageous matchup there, $7,600. Not a bad price tag. Do like his upside that he could potentially have. Then we have Drake London at $7,500 going against Seattle Seahawks. No Tariq Woolen this week, which is a big thing for him because that was the guy that probably had the best chance of covering him. Trey Brown's also out. So now it's Devon Witherspoon, who's mainly playing on the opposite side, playing in the slot. Size mismatch versus Drake London. Should be a pretty good week for him just in general. We got Terry McLaurin, $7,200 going against Carolina Panthers. Number one target on his team. Good matchup as well. Same thing can be said about Deontay Johnson on the opposite side of the game, $7,100. A really good matchup. Clear number one target on his team. Really good chemistry with Andy Dalton so far to start off the season. Then we move down to Tank Dell, $7,000. Decent matchup versus the Green Bay Packers. If they really focus on Stephon Diggs, would not be surprised if it's a big week for Tank Dell just in general. Then we have Devontae Adams, $6,900 going against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't love the matchup, but getting back with Aaron Rodgers, whether or not he was actually banged up or not is kind of another story. But at this price tag, it's really worth taking a shot on. Jameson Williams, $6,500. Played really well so far to start off the season. It's a decent matchup versus the Vikings, which could be a pretty back and forth game environment. Right below him, we got Jordan Addison, $6,300. Same thing can be said about him. Definitely do like getting into some Jordan Addison just in general this week. Amari Cooper, $6,100, going against the Titans, who have a really banged up secondary at this point in time. L'Jarius Sneed technically listed as questionable to play, but did not practice at all this week. So Amari Cooper, if he can break in with this Bills team, kind of learn the offense real quick on the fly, if he can earn that trust of Josh Allen, could be a decent play. A little bit of risk there to be had at the same time, though, as well. And then we have Juju Smith-Schuster, $6,100, going against the 49ers, quickly becoming a target that Patrick Mahomes can rely on, especially after the loss of Rashee Rice. And then we have Tyler Lockett, $5,800. Do like the matchup versus Atlanta. Probably getting Mike Hughes more times than that. So should be an advantageous matchup for him. Would not be surprised if he has a big game, and also coming off a big game in his most recent game. And then we have DeAndre Hopkins, only $5,600. Tough matchup against the Bills. Played about 70% of the snaps last week, so they are kind of letting him loose. We'll see whether or not he ultimately ends up getting traded sooner rather than later before the NFL trade deadline, but that's a story for a different day. Definitely do like his potential upside that he could have. Then we move down to Jerry Jeudy. He's also $5,600. There is no Amari Cooper now at this point in time, so him and David Njoku probably going to be primary targets for Deshaun Watson for whatever that's worth at this point in time. It is a really good matchup for Cincinnati Bengals. If you want to go down Elijah Moore, $4,600 is kind of a punt play. Same good matchup. Has really almost nothing this year. And then last but not least, we have Noah Brown at $5,000. Going against the Panthers should be a really attractive matchup just in general. And kind of that number 3 target for Jane Daniels this week overall. Probably not going to get a lot of ownership, but could have a little bit of upside at the end of the day as well. Moving over to the tight end position, we have George Kittle, $7,500, going against the Chiefs team that has struggled against the tight end position so far this season, which is a little bit of a surprise, but definitely do like his upside. And then Brock Bowers, $7,000, going against the Rams. Really good matchup. Clear number 1 target on his team this week. Jacoby Myers probably not playing. Trey Tucker did nothing last week. They're running out DJ Turner, Christian Wilkinson, Alex Bachman, guys like that. So clear number 1 target at this point in time. You got Kyle Pitts, an attractive matchup versus the Seattle Seahawks, $5,900. Definitely do like him once again. Tucker Kraft going against 2 backup linebackers and backup safety for the Texans. Definitely a lot of upside there at $5,800. Zach Ertz, clear number 2 target on his team, going against the Panthers. They're rolling out backup linebackers once again. $5,100, probably one of my favorite plays at the tight end position this week. And then we have Grant Calcaterra, $5,100, filling in for Dallas Goedert, who has already been rolled out this week. He played like 91% of the snaps after Goddard left. Played pretty well in those snaps as well. So some decent little upside there in the Giants matchup that could be quite favorable. And then last but not least, we have Jatavian Sanders, $4,900 going against the Washington Commanders. Could be a decent matchup. We'll see whether or not Tommy Tremble plays or not. If Tremble plays, we're probably not getting to Jatavian Sanders. If Tremble misses, then obviously Sanders looks a little bit better at the end of the day as well. But that's probably one that we're going to get news-wise in terms of the inactive, so we'll keep an eye out on that. And then we move over to the defenses. We got the Bills versus the Titans, $5,000. Probably a little bit more than I like to pay. But if they can get pressure on Will Levis, who I believe is technically listed as questionable due to his shoulders. So we'll see what that looks like at the end of the day. We've got the Jets at $4,800 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously on FanDuel, we get the Sunday Night Football game, and I like both those defenses in that game. They both have decent defenses versus kind of subpar offenses so far to start off the year. So both the Jets and the Steelers are very much in play at $4,800 and $4,500. The Eagles, $4,700 going against the Giants. Should be some pretty decent upside to be had there. Obviously, Malik Neighbors is back this week for the Giants, though. And then for the final two teams, we have the Rams and the Dolphins. Rams, $4,100 going against the Raiders. Very attractive matchup. If you can stop Brock Bowers in that run game, it's pretty much over. And then for the Dolphins, $3,600. If they can get some pressure on Anthony Richardson coming off that hip pointer, we'll see how healthy he is at this point in time. We'll see how well he does moving around. Should be a pretty decent spot for the Dolphins just in general. But with that being said, that's what I do have in terms of my player pool for both DraftKings and FanDuel for NFL DFS for week number 7. If you have any other additional questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. This player pool sheet will be posted on my Patreon page as well. I'll be leaving any additional updates over there. If there's anything major news coming out, especially like with actors or something like that, I will try to leave it in the comment section of this video as well. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have NFL DFS in terms of the player pool video coming out once a week, typically either on Friday or Saturday. It's either late on Friday evening or typically on Saturday afternoons. This week it's going to be coming out on Saturday afternoon. And then I do typically have my CFL DFS video dropping once a week, typically on Thursdays. Last couple of weeks I haven't had the chance to get to it. Next week is the final week of CFL DFS. If I do not post a video, I will make my CFL DFS Week 21 sheet free on Patreon for all the people that do support that as well. Next week, we do start NBA seasons, so I will be doing NBA DFS videos Tuesday through Friday this season. I might throw in like the occasional Saturday one here and there. It's just kind of what fits my schedule at this point in time. There'll be core pick videos for both FanDuel and DraftKings, so definitely want to look out for that. I will probably not be doing the Tuesday one coming up because there's only 2 games on that slate, but starting Wednesday, do expect those videos on a regular basis. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Prize Picks, and Parlay Play. If you are a brand new user on any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for this week's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day, no matter what day you're watching this on. A good weekend overall, and some really good luck in NFL DFS for week number 7.